Let me share my. Okay. There we go. All right. There, that's better. Okay, dealing with food addictions. How many of you guys have not been on plan over the holidays? You can even put a 1 in the chat if you want to do that. But maybe you've not even been on plan over the holidays, or even less than a year, I might put out there, right? Sometimes the holidays feel a little bit intimidating, you guys, but truly, it is quite freeing, because you're going to love being on program in a way, if you think of it this way, in a way that serves you, right? If you've only been on plan for a little bit of time and maybe you're new onto the Zoom, you may need to focus a little more on this holiday. But if you've been on plan a bit longer than a few weeks, you guys know you've got some healthy habits, right, under your tool belt. You know, eating those 6 times a day, you know, portion control, you know, making good choices. You've got all those things going for you, because if you think about it, there's always going to be something happening that could take you off track, right? There's always going to be a holiday. There's always going to be a work meeting. There's always going to be somebody, you know, bringing goodies into your work. There's going to be vacations, family life, we're going on a trip, we're doing this, we're doing that. There's food is involved in everything. You guys know that. So when you think about that, let me get these out of my way. Remember, fight for your excuses or fight for your goals. Let me repeat that. Fight for your excuses or fight for your goals, right? We are all about fighting for our goals. And the first thing that you want to think about when you're thinking about that is revisiting that why. Because those whys are very fluid. They can change from day to day, really. So you've got to revisit that why consistently, very, very consistently. So we're going to talk a little bit about addictive foods. So really, you're going to need something to write on. It can be scratch paper, but a pen and a paper eventually here, because we're going to take a sugar susceptibility test, okay? But we're going to talk about the better direction on how to go and how to rewrite your brain so as not to fall prey to the sugar addiction cycle. All right, so get ready for that. When you think about it, everywhere you go, you're bombarded, right, with food stuff. Food advertisements, enticing foods, portable, quick foods, you know, sometimes eat cheap foods, but they're ready to use and you can grab them and you can go. When we think about that, many times, hopefully for you guys, that's becoming less and less of a temptation to just think about that quickness. But when we're stressed, when we're tired, when we're bored, sometimes we desire a quick fix, right? We desire that immediate pleasure, that immediate gratification, that immediate infusion of energy. We desire all of that. But in element 16, we are going to be equipped with a better understanding of why some non-food substances should be really treated like you would cocaine or heroin. So look at this PowerPoint right here. The problem with refined sugars and flours is that they light up the brain just like cocaine and heroin. The nucleus accumbens releases large amounts of dopamine, which creates a pleasurable feeling and leads to the desire for more and more and more. You guys, that release of dopamine, that makes us feel pleasure and satisfaction and motivation, and we need dopamine, right? We need that dopamine, but it does make us desire more and more and more. So, you know, refined sugars and flours too, I want you to think about this, because refined sugars and flours, when we think of that, you probably think breads, pastries, right? But don't forget about things like processed foods, like maybe crackers or pizza or cereals or cookies or cakes or ice cream cones. I mean, there are so many things that are considered refined, refined foods. All right, let's look at this. Let me get my thumbnail. Whoops. Just a second, I'm trying to get that down. Oh, sorry guys. I'm just trying to get rid of my bar up here and I can't get rid of it. Refined sugars are everywhere. You guys, we consume over 150 pounds of sugar and flour per year. The food industry is creating this huge problem. So if you're in phase one, remember phase one, you guys, is losing your weight, getting healthy, but losing your weight. Getting to that goal weight would be phase one. But if you're in phase one, hopefully you are getting through this and feeling amazed by eliminating some of these toxic foods, right? We're eliminating these refined flours and sugars and all of that kind of stuff. If you are in transition and you've added back any of these foods, you may not have felt so great, right? I have a client that when they added back in the grains, all of a sudden they didn't feel well, like they bloated and they just didn't feel good. Okay, so they took those completely out of their diet because they recognized that that wasn't serving them well. I'm not saying that some of you are never going to eat your whole grains again, right? I'm just saying for some people that doesn't serve them well. So that's when we transition. That's a beautiful thing because we're adding things in one by one and we really get to recognize and determine what makes us feel good and what makes us not feel good. All right. Let's look at this. Okay. Suzette, I have to figure out how to get my bar. Are you seeing my bar up there?
No, it's not up there. Go up in the right corner where it says view. Click on that and change the view of your top right corner.
Yeah, I know. That's where I usually go, and I usually go to the thumbnail, and I'm having a hard time getting it to compress because my, oh, wait a second. Here.
Click escape on your keyboard so it gives you a different view for you. It's not going to get rid of your PowerPoint. And then you should be able to change it.
I'm trying to compress you guys, like our pictures up there. That's what I'm trying to compress because it's covering my PowerPoint.
Yeah. And
you can also move it. Can you move it?
Oh, maybe that'll just work. Maybe I'll just move it down. Oh, Connie, you're so smart. Were you a teacher or something or a counselor? What were you? Okay, thanks. All right, we're right here. All right, guys. So think about this. It isn't your fault, you guys, and we talked about this, but it's hard. This makes it very, very hard. Whoops. Current slide. I don't want it to. There we go. It makes it very, very hard when we have this sugar and this flour and stuff everywhere, right? So let's look at this. Leptin, and we've talked about leptin before. I don't know if you were on here when we talked about it, but it's the hunger suppressant hormone. So leptin is released by fat cells to tell the brain you are not hungry anymore. So as insulin rises in response to eating sugar, so we eat that sugar, right? You guys are all aware of that, right? With diet, we eat the sugar, the insulin rises, and then the flour and so flour I'm sorry, sugar and flour and refined foods. We eat those refined foods, our insulin rises, it blocks the leptin. So it's no longer capable of suppressing our hunger. So think about that, right? Think about that for just a minute. I know it's the nurse in me that wants you to understand the insulin rise. But if you're eating that refined sugar and flour, okay, your insulin's going to shoot up. So really that can be refined sugar and flour, you guys. That can even be fruit. I'm just going to tell you, not that it's bad to eat fruit, but anything that's high. So that insulin's going to rise up. It blocks the leptin. Now our hunger is not suppressed anymore. So when you think about that, that's why if you guys say, oh, I've been on program and then I made a choice to have that slice of cheesecake. And then all of a sudden I was insatiable. I was so hungry and hungry and hungry. And I could no longer, I just felt like I wanted to eat everything. That's why. So really, not to get off on a little tangent, but really when you think about that, at Thanksgiving, that might help you make a choice. Like, do I want to eat that and then get back to that satiety and, have to get back to the fat burn and all of that? Or do I want to just go full force in because of where I am in program? This is one Thanksgiving. You're going to have many, many more. So we'll talk about that. There was actually a mice study where mice were fed high glycemic foods. And believe it or not, as their insulin increased in their blood, the mice began eating continually and stopped moving. They began eating continually and stopped moving. Was that because the mice had no willpower or they were just weak mice? No, right? It was because of chemically what was going on in their gross little mice bodies. Okay, how did you feel before starting your journey? Okay, how susceptible are you to the addictive powers of refined sugar and flour? We are all at some risk because, as we discussed, these light up the pleasure centers of our brain, and we like that feeling. When those pleasure centers are lit up, that's a good feeling. So I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny that we don't enjoy it, okay? But let's take a little quiz and just kind of evaluate. And maybe if you're into your life book and you've purchased that life book, and I'm just going to put in a little plug here. If you've been on the program for any amount of time and you haven't purchased the life book yet, I would say by all means, purchase it. There is something about us writing, journaling our thoughts, journaling what's going on, and putting it down on paper that is so freeing and works so well for us. Okay, so we're all at some risk. Now it's time for those pens and paper. So get something, even if you're just grabbing something, we are going to take a quiz on how susceptible are you to sugar? Okay. All right. Number 1, habits of food addiction susceptibility quiz. And this is actually in your life book. If you want to know, it's on page, I think 322, 323, something like that. So number 1, and you're going to write down rarely, occasionally, or daily, because then you're going to add those words up. If you want to write down ROD, whatever you want to write down. I find it difficult to control how much I eat. Okay, I find it difficult to control how much I eat. I'm going to move through these because you shouldn't have to put a lot of thought in these, really. Number 2, I crash in the afternoon and have trouble waking up in the morning. I crash in the afternoon and have trouble waking up in the morning. Number 3, I have cravings for specific foods. I'm not saying you don't have favorite foods,
I'll go
but you
sit in
actually
there.
crave specific foods. Four, I suffer from moodiness, headaches, or fogginess. I suffer from moodiness, headaches, or fogginess. Now, if you're on days 1, 2, or 3, that's going to be a given, probably. But we're talking about in general. Whoops, went the wrong way. When I only eat a moderate amount of food, I am rarely satisfied. So you're only really satisfied when you're eating quite a bit of food. I feel guilty after eating. Number 7, I spend a considerable amount of time thinking about food. Number 8, I eat even if I am not hungry because I crave a food. So I'm really not hungry. There's nothing in my body that's really, telling me, hey, my body is hungry, but I just eat anyway, because it's like, that's in the pantry, that's in the freezer. It's something there that I actually want to eat anyway. Number 9, I eat large amounts of food and feel powerless to help. I eat large amounts of food and feel powerless to help. And number 10, I crave, that's the terminology for carbohydrates, like bread, pasta, white rice, desserts. I crave carbohydrates like bread, pasta, white rice, or desserts. Okay, so now what you need to do is you need to add up how many rarelys, okay? How many R's, how many O's, how many D's? Add those up. Rarely, often. So add those up real fast. Everybody got that? Here is your results. So rarely, occasionally, and daily. I said often. Occasionally and daily. So if you had greater than 6 rarelys, you have a low susceptibility. If you had greater than 6 moderates or occasionals, you have moderate susceptibility. And if you had greater than 6 dailies, you have high susceptibility. All right. So we'll talk about that at the end a little bit. We'll talk about that at the end. You know what? Let's do this. Put a 1 in the chat if you had rarely or low susceptibility. Put a 2 in the chat if you had moderate, and put a 3 in the chat if you had high. And if you don't know how to do that, hover down over the bottom there and where it'll say chat, and hit on that, and you can go into the chat. So put a 1 if you had low, put a 2 if you had moderate, put a 3 if you had high, and Suzette will look at those and we'll kind of see where most people on here are. Okay, but I want to tell you this. If your score was here, you guys, if you scored here, you probably want to avoid eating sugars and refined flours and stuff like that, even after you transition. Because number 1, I'm just going to tell you, and I'm not going to say I never eat them by any means. But what I am going to tell you is there's nothing good in them. If it's white, it's basically worthless to you. So if you love a big bowl of white pasta, I'm telling you, I could take that pasta, no matter how it's cooked, and I could wad it up and it would stick together and I could throw it as a ball. That's basically what it does in your gut. So think about that, okay? Think about that. So if you score high here, you are susceptible, and you probably most likely will be pretty susceptible. It could be a combination of genetics. It could be your environment. If you grew up in that environment and that's all you ate, that's hard, right? That puts you at risk. So think about that. All right. I want to say this too. If, again, in the life book, or you guys, if you're digital, you have access to these. So in element 15, it talks about eating healthy for life, and it has glycemic charts in there. Okay. So you want to be in the green. In the green, you feel lean. I'm going to tell you that's lower glycemic. It raises your insulin slower because your sugar raises slower. So you want to eat and, stay in the green to be lean, and avoid foods, things that you might not think about. Avoid foods like fruit juice. Who grew up with a parent telling them, drink your juice, it's good for you? You guys, juice is like sugar water. My kids never even got juice until, truthfully, my kids still don't drink they're adults, and I don't think they ever drink juice, but I diluted it always half and half. No matter how old they were, I diluted it if they were having juice. But you have to think about things like juice concentrates, juice in general. You have to think about what are those gross, I remember getting this when I was little, the canned fruits in the sugar, right? Whoever got fruit cocktail in the can, right, with those little gross cherries? Oh, I could just gag thinking about it, but I remember getting it. Okay, let's look here. I don't know if I'm thinking to my next PowerPoint yet. So let me just talk for a minute per Dr. A, because he had some good stuff, some really good stuff written in the life book. But he said, if we can avoid stimulating the hormonal metabolic switches that stimulate our insulin and allow that leptin to signal that you're full, your body will give you the proper advice and stop those wild surges of dopamine release that create the cravings to addiction and leading to addiction and loss of control. Let me read that again, okay? Because that's some really strong words. If we can avoid stimulating the metabolic switches that stimulate our insulin and that block the leptin, right, to signal that we're full, our bodies will tell us and give us the advice to stop the wild surges of dopamine that release and create the cravings that lead to addiction and loss of control. So if you're one of those people that feel like, I'm an addict, I'm a sugar addict. How many friends do you know? How many of you have been guilty of saying, I'm a carb addict? That's why you're a carb addict. And not, just like I said, that environment, the genetics, that all could play in there. So I'm not saying you're not a carb addict. I'm just saying we can train our bodies by the foods that we choose and the foods that we eat to lessen that addiction by far. And then always, right? Stop, challenge, choose, coach. Okay? We've got to stop ourselves because we've got to take that challenge, right? Sometimes we're in full force. Sometimes we're stressed out. Sometimes that emotional tension, or maybe you have, your own triggers. But we have to stop. We have to consciously challenge ourselves, and then we have to make a choice. Okay? And then I added coach in here because you guys, that's what coaches are here for. When you're in a weak moment, text your coach, right? If you were having a crisis, you may call a friend. So when you're in a weak moment, maybe you're in a situation, maybe you're just feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. All I want to do is eat. Text your coach, call your coach. We'll talk you down off that ledge. Okay. So think about that. And then nothing tastes as good as optimal health. So I want you just to take a minute here before we look over those 1s, 2s, and 3s. Take down the time to write what you're going to do the next time you feel tempted. And then we're going to talk about, and I'm going to stop sharing just a second, but does anyone want to share how it was when they started the program, what they were like when they started the program, what they're like now if you're well into the program? Truthfully, if you've been on the program a week, you could share on that. Because if you're in fat burn, it is totally different right now. So you could totally share on that as well. Okay. Let me stop sharing the screen. Get my view back up here, full screen. And let's talk for a minute on those 1s, 2s, or 3s. What, Suzette, could you tell on the chat, what did we have the most of?
It was about equal between the 1 and 2. We
1
had a
and
couple of 3s, but 1 and 2 was very equal.
So rarely or occasionally?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody want to share maybe what they used to be like, what they're like now, that type of thing? I know somebody does. Maybe a little.
Well, Matt and I were talking when you were going over about, the pastas and things like that and how you can wad it up. And, neither one of us are big pasta eaters, never have been, but occasionally, you go and you eat pasta. But after being on the program and actually trying spaghetti squash and the zucchini noodles and those type of things that we use in place of the pasta, I could never imagine going back to eating the pasta that really, unless you add a lot of salt and things like that, doesn't have flavor anyways. The zucchini and the spaghetti squash, you don't have to add anything to it. It has so much more flavor. You go away, you're full, but you're not miserable like you are whenever you add the pastas, the white pastas to your diet. So if you haven't tried the spaghetti squash and the zucchini noodles, I highly recommend it. And if you're like, no, this ain't for me, keep trying it. Eventually it will be, because as your body is getting used to a new way of eating, the flavors really are stronger.
Yeah, exactly. I am laughing because who just wrote that? Let me see here. Jan wrote, I used to drink Tang because the astronauts did. Right? Who remembers Tang? And you thought you were so cool if you got to drink Tang. Exactly. Denise, it's going to be around the 320s. And there she's asking where that sentence was in the life book. Before Optavia, I was tired all the time. Now I'm very aware of what I put in my body for food. And if they put that pasta in their tummy, can tell. And that is for sure. You definitely can tell. Kalisha said, thanks to Celeste showing me skinny pasta is life.
Hey, Lauren.
And Celeste, yeah, you had your hand up. Well, oh, I'm sorry, Connie. Go ahead, and then Celeste. Yeah, Connie. I thought that was Celeste.
So to piggyback on what Suzette said, I was a carb addict. I rarely ate protein, but spaghetti, potatoes, anything potatoes. And so since I've been on the program, I rarely eat pasta. And when I do, oh my gosh, I feel so terrible and bloated. And I just don't think I'll ever go back to being a pasta addict again. But yeah, I was that. I craved pasta.
Right?
Yep.
I love that. And it's so true. And I would totally agree with you, because think of it, you guys, it's addictive, right? It is high glycemic. it shoots your blood sugar up, that shoots your insulin up, and that's where that whole response takes place. So again, it may not, it's not all your fault. It's not just like, why don't I have the willpower to keep up with this? Why can't I do this? You may have some history to break, you know, some habits that are in your, that you grew up with, some habits that, you know, and I'm going to put this out there. It's cheaper to eat that way. White pasta is cheap. It's cheaper to eat that way. But is it worth it? You know? And I'm going to say one more thing, and this is just the nurse and the mom coming out in me. What are you bringing your kids up on? Right? Because they're going to have those same cravings. So if we start introducing, you know, my kids always, when they were little, if they had any white pasta, I mixed whole grain pasta with it. So they had to have that mix of those textures until then they were, you know, more into, they could, because the textures are different. I mean, the textures are definitely different. I'm glad we have mostly low to moderate susceptibility, not a, with Suzette. So we had a couple high susceptibilities. Celeste, I don't know where she went on my screen, but.
Hey, I'm here.
Oh, hey.
No, I'm gonna keep my camera off because I'm coming off of the flu and I look ratchet.
Like a hot mess.
Anyway,
like a hot southern mess.
It is rough around here. Okay. But so I'm so glad that we covered this before Thanksgiving. This is probably my favorite element, just because I was such a sugar and carb addict pretty much my whole life. You know, like you said, I was raised on the fruit juices. I was raised on the canned fruit and all of that. And so once I had to start paying attention to my weight, I had no idea what to do until this program came along. And so that's why I just love this element so much. And you said exactly what I was about to say. After losing the weight and getting healthy and changing my addiction to carbs and sugar, my children have also, we've started incorporating that into their diet, you know, getting rid of the high glycemic foods and getting rid of the white bread and the white pastas and switching them over to eating skinny pasta, you know. So that's what I'm so thankful for, because they won't grow up the same way that I did. And it's no fault to my parents. They didn't know better.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm just so thankful. I'm so thankful for that. So thanks for covering this today. It was awesome.
Absolutely. I know somebody, forget who it was. Let me see here. Catherine's just put in there, I'm a nurse, and at the 3 to 4 o'clock witching hour, lattes with a ton of sugar are craved. Yes, very addictive, right? Those high sugar, high carbohydrate drinks for sure are extremely addictive. So definitely. One more thing I do want to say before I go into a few holiday tips, because Thanksgiving is upon us for sure, right? This week, is pre-plan. You have to start planning now, right? And most of you, if you cook, you probably are starting to plan. You know me, I'm writing down what we're going to have, and then somebody else is planning. But I'm just saying, you know, there's a lot of things you can change here. Traditions don't have to be unhealthy. And I'm not saying that you can't decorate a turkey cookie with your grandchild. I mean, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying we can get the bigger focus of the holiday off of the unhealthy stuff and into healthier habits. Okay. And I'm just going to be transparent here. So we're having turkey kebabs. So we're having turkey breast with veggies on kebabs. We're having, what else did I put on that list? A big salad. We're having cauliflower mashed potatoes, not regular mashed potatoes. We're not even doing a dessert. Oh, actually, I think my future daughter-in-law is bringing a paleo something or other that she's making. But I'm just saying, it's healthy what we're eating. The next morning, I have a lean and green breakfast casserole that we're gonna make. So it's all in the choice. And I know we can say, but they expect this, but they expect this. And I'm not judging, condemning anyone that says, okay, you know, I'm going to make that for them and you're not going to partake in it. That's, you know, we can go back to those three things, right? Where you're going to rock the program. That's a choice. I'm going to stay in full-fledged fat burn, right? I'm going to rock it. I'm going to take that 3-bite thing. Okay, I'm going to have a bite. I'm going to taste it. I'm going to enjoy the next bite. And the third bite, I'm going to say, bye-bye, that's gone. I'm not doing any more than those 3 little bites. Or you can derail and say, this is one meal. But you guys, let's turn that into why you're not going to derail. This is one meal. Now, sometimes that's an all-day meal. We start at 8 in the morning and we go right until 8 at night with all the alcohol and all the food and starting with the cinnamon rolls and on and on and on. But it's one day. It's one holiday. It's one meal. Is it worth derailing what you've done so far for that one meal? And if your answer is yes, that's your choice. And that's okay. And nobody's going to condemn you for that. But you have to think about that stuff. So I'm going to just share a couple things. And I don't know why. This is probably what I should have made the PowerPoint on. But if you want to jot these down, these are some good things that you can do like at gatherings. So eat amazing food you love that loves you back. Eat amazing food that you love that loves you back, right? No abusive relationships with that food. Choose the small plate. Choose the small plate. If anyone can type really fast, you can type it into the chat. I'm not that fast of a typer. So eat amazing food you love that loves you back. Choose the small plate. Eat slowly, sip often. Eat slowly, mindfully. I used to teach my kids all the time. You guys probably think I'm a terrible mom. I used to teach my kids mindfully eat. Chew your food. Think about it. Enjoy it. Don't just snarf it down like it's, you know, just there to, so mindfully eat. And take drinks often. Okay. And that might be, again, keeping that water in your dominant hand. When you're walking around talking to everybody, have a water bottle in your dominant hand. And so you can take sips often. Number one, it's going to keep the feeling of satiety and fullness in your belly. Number two, it's going to keep your hand away from being able to just grab something easy that's on the table that you're walking by, right? And it's going to keep you very conscious. So keep that water bottle. So eat slowly, sip often, stand away from the food table. Okay. I had someone said that this is what they did. And you guys, we don't have like a huge Thanksgiving down here. We don't have a lot of family down here or anything. So it's more just immediate family. And if they have anybody they want to invite. But if some of you go to huge family gatherings, like the whole extended family's there, and I love that. I love that. I wish we had that. But and I can attest here, this is totally off, but Melanie over here and I used to, when we lived in Pensacola, we did Thanksgivings every year together with the whole basketball team and any of their siblings or girlfriends or any of that. Best Thanksgivings ever. Okay, so I love those extended family, but one thing you can do is when you have a couple tables, usually in those gatherings, you have places where you're setting all the food out, right? So it's tables or, the bar or whatever it is. Put all the healthy food in one place and all the non-healthy food in another place. And if you're on plan, just tell yourself, I'm not even going to look at that table. I'm not even walking over to that table. And that'll help decrease your temptation. get some bubbly in a fancy glass. I'm not talking about champagne. I'm talking about bubbly, like carbonated water, but put it in a champagne glass or put it in something. Or if you're at a holiday party and everybody's like, aren't you going to have a drink? Or aren't you, for me, that's not hard at all because I don't drink. So, but if you're on here and you do, that can be a really big temptation at the holidays. So if you put a little bubbly in a champagne glass, or nobody's going to even question you because put it in a red Solo cup. They're going to think you have something and they're going to leave you alone. So you can do stuff like that. If you have the holiday at your house, get rid of unhealthy leftovers. If that means sending them home with whoever came, or if that means, I'm going to say it, putting them in the trash can. Whatever that means, because if they are there, you will eat them. So get rid of those unhealthy leftovers. Right after you eat, if you can slip away and brush your teeth, or if you're at somebody's house, put a stick of minty gum in your mouth. Kind of satisfies any more cravings, kind of satisfies, not going back and getting something savory. Now I've got minty gum in my mouth. That's a good habit. Throw out those Thanksgiving pants, those sweatpants with the elastic waist, right? And put on some skinny jeans if that's appropriate. All of you on here, Paul, don't be putting any skinny jeans on, okay? But I'm saying wear something fitted so that you're not going, oh, I don't feel so full. You'll feel it right away if you have something like that on. And then be conversation based. There's a thing that we've learned on lots of things. It's FORD. If you think of the acronym FORD, because some of you guys, like I could talk to a brick wall, but some of you guys, that's like, Matt, don't shake your head, yes. But some of you guys, that's like hard. Like I'm going over, I haven't seen this person in a while, even if it's a family member, like, I don't really know. We don't really have anything in common. I don't really know what to talk about. If you think of the acronym FORD in your mouth, it means family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Ask about their family. Ask about their job. Ask about what they've been doing lately for fun. Ask them what their dreams are for 2023. Any goals set for 2023? Some people roll their eyes at goal setting. I mean, for 33 years, I've tried to get my husband to do a New Year's resolution. Absolutely refuses to do it. Said, if you have resolutions, they should be all year long, not in January. It's got a little bit of a point, right? If we're doing lifelong transformation, and then ask yourself, how do you want to feel the next day? How do I want to feel Friday when I wake up to go Black Friday shopping? And some of you are, I'll definitely wake up to go Black Friday shopping, but Suzette's going to go with me this year. But she's vigorously shaking her head no because she hates shopping. But how do I want to feel the next day just when I wake up? If I'm going to watch football, if I'm going to, whatever you're going to be doing that day, how do you want to feel that day? And then I wrote down bookend accountability. Okay. Text your coach or put into our lifelong transformation page. What's your plan? What's your plan going in? Text your coach. This is my plan. And kind of put some bookends to that plan. Now I've got a little bit of accountability. I told my coach, this is my plan. So this is what I'm going to do. There was one more thing I wanted to, let me find it real fast because I really liked this. Sorry, I thought I had it right here. Where is it? It's kind of one of those things where do any of you on here have those people that, oh, come on, it's just one day. Just have a bite of that. It's just one drink. Just have a drink. It's Thanksgiving, for crying out loud, right? Some of you have that. And I have a really good thing that I was going to share with you. Here we go. I found it. All right. So they say just have some, or oh, you need, or it's not the holidays without, or have any of you heard this one yet? You're losing too much weight. Okay. You've all heard some of those things. So here's some answers for you. And I thought these were excellent. So I'm working with a health coach, and I'm working on some health goals and building some new habits that are really important to me. So I'd really appreciate your support and encouragement. Okay? I'm going to tell you, they'll shut up. I'm just going to tell you, they will. I'm working with the health coach, and I'm working on some health goals and building some new habits in my life that are really important to me. And I would really appreciate your support and encouragement. Before everything happens, I found this awesome new recipe I'm going to bring. Mine would be bringing a big salad. They'll be like, that's a great recipe. But you could bring a lean and green recipe. Those that say you're losing too much weight, this is excellent. I realize you knew me one way, and actually my brain is still catching up with the changes too, but I am so excited that I'm actually getting to a healthy BMI and I'm experiencing whatever, and I feel so much better. So I realize you knew me one way, and truthfully, my brain is still catching up with the changes too. But I'm so excited that I'm getting so healthy. I have so much energy. I am sleeping amazing. My cravings have subsided. I'm actually at a healthy, and I'm not a big BMI only thing. Okay. We have to look at body fat. We have to look at, you can't just go by your BMI, but BMI does indicate our risk for disease. So, it is a good indicator. So, but whatever it is, I'm feeling amazing. And then last but not least, this is kind of a lie. So thanks, but I'm allergic to something, right? So the person said, thanks, but I'm allergic. My body breaks out in fat with that. Now, some people would not find that too funny, right? And it would be kind of condemning if they were sitting there eating it. So I'd be real careful with that one. But my body breaks out in fat with that. Okay, so those are just some excellent ways. And if we had more, we don't have time, but there are just so many traditions and stuff that you can turn into healthy things. So just remember that. And again, you guys, it is one Thanksgiving this year. So if you're hard on plan, I encourage you to try to get through the holidays on that plan. Next Thanksgiving, you're going to be in a completely different place where you maybe could make a different plan. But you have to ask yourself, is this gonna spiral me downward by having this one meal? And if your answer is no, by all means, there's no judgment here. I'm not saying you shouldn't, do what you want to do, eat a bite of your favorite, whatever. But ask yourself some questions before you make that decision. And real fast, I don't know, Suzette, if you've been, okay, I think it's just all comments.
There is one thing I wanted to add real quick. Another thing that I found helpful is don't go into Thanksgiving Day with everybody there and say, I can't have that because I'm on a diet.
Yes, good point. You're not on a diet, guys. You are on a transformation to live a life a different way. So if you go into Thanksgiving, sorry, I can't have that, I'm on a diet. That's negative. That's a negative thing. So again, go back to that. I'm working with a health coach, and I'm trying to instill some new healthy habits in my life. And right now I'm feeling amazing. So I'm going to just be making some different choices this Thanksgiving. Hopefully you can support me in that. Right? Because once you say that, they're not going to say, sorry, I'm not supporting you. Right? I mean, I don't think they are. And if they are, they should probably just go outside of that circle. That's a whole different subject. So, all right, guys, I hope some of that helped. That was a lot of stuff in one Zoom. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your mentors, your coaches, your people that are gonna be there to support you. And we would definitely be there to support you and guide you. So have a beautiful, I guess this will be it before Thanksgiving, right? Have an amazing Thanksgiving. All of you Black Friday shoppers, enjoy it. Don't eat donuts to wake up. You can drink some coffee if you want, and let's have a beautiful holiday. All right. Bye, guys.